All right. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? This is Gold Pilled, and I'm here with the Gold Pilled stream. I got a pretty interesting character to talk about today. I was going to take it slow going into alternative media and the figureheads of alternative media, but a couple recent videos I watched here in the past week really got me questioning some things. So we're just going to jump right into the deep end and talk about Brendon Lee O'Connell. Now, it's kind of weird I'm doing this video, but he's one of the most respected people, respected truthers online, in my opinion. I love his work. I've been following him for many years now, and he puts out great information. However, there's a lot of red flags surrounding him that suggest that he's either part of the very IIA that he talks about, or he's an actual agent of one of the intelligence services. And we're going to go over some of that data and history of him, and you come to your own conclusion. And this video will lead into my next video, which will be about Joe Rogan and the guests he has on there. The last week or two, he's had a couple doctors that put the internet a buzz. So that'll lead into that. So let's get started with Brendon O'Connell here. The question is he legit? Is he an ordinary person that got caught up in some stuff and now he's fighting the truth movement? Or is he just another IIA operation set to put our focus on a certain thing and take us down a certain path? Well, that's the question we're asking today. So let's get started. What's the official story about Brendon? Who is he? Well, according to the videos and everything he's put out, he was just an ordinary RN nurse working in the healthcare industry up until a rally he attended in 2009. Had an altercation and got him arrested and thrown in jail for 3 years supposedly, and everything kind of just panned out after that. Put him on his path. So let's look into it further. And we're going to start off here with a video clip. He did an interview with an MC Scout. I never heard of the guy, but the interview was really good. And there's some decent information in there. And I'll have all the links to the videos I'm referencing in the description, so you can go watch them in full on your own time. But I'm going to play a couple clips from his interview. So let's bring that up and get started here.
From there. Well, God willing, I think I believe there's a backlash happening. I think a lot of people have been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Remember, back in 2009, I was arrested for incitement. Basically, they have racial vilification laws. I'd had an altercation with a 21-year-old Jewish activist, big fan of Chabad Lubavitch, and we believe tap for great things, Stanley Elliott Keyser. And at that rally in defense of the Palestinians, which was very peaceful, we bitched more about the Catholic Church than we did about anyone else. These guys, cutting a long story short, were stalking us, photographing, and started harassing. And when we pulled him up and put him on camera, he got very uptight. But that was the video that started my little journey in 2009 in May. And I was arrested. This is what began the process. Now, I was happy thinking the police might just pop around for a chat, which had happened previously, because I outed an Israeli asset, an Australian-born Jew named Leon Wende, W-E-N-D-E, obviously a graduate of the Telpiot program and or Unit 8200. He was installing the weapons and sensor systems on our Collins-class submarine, and they were all Israeli. And I said, geez, that's news to me. And I had all the video and pictures through a friend. He had it on a thumb drive. I said, dude, you can't have this on your thumb drive. This is a classified sub. So this is what started my journey, 2005, leading up to 2009. I'd had interviews and said, you got a problem with Israel. It's a long story. The police are a little untrustworthy in Western Australia for many reasons, very corrupt. It's a very isolated place, run by BHP Billiton and big mining and oil and gas interests. And also you have SAS Campbell Barracks, the Special Forces base in Western Australia, Perth, and you have Garden Island Naval Base. So it's overrun with military intelligence, hi Wayne, and a whole host of goings on. Very quiet place. All the South African Special Forces and kill squads retired there after they got out of apartheid South Africa. They hired protected witnesses there. I met the travel agent Tony Sami, aka Tufik Ali Sarora, in jail. He brought the original Muhammad Atta in and the blind Sheikh World Trade Center bombers in '93. He was a protected witness. It's a very interesting state. It's empty, almost as big as Texas, and there's 3 million people in it. So that's the background of where I'm coming from. And when I had those interactions with intelligence and others, it's to try and get across that you are totally infiltrated. And this infiltration started a long time ago. Obviously, many of your listeners will know full well that Bill Cooper, they know their history, as do you guys and Johnny the paratrooper. But the
Okay, so you heard it from him right there. In 2009, that's what started the process. Well, as we go into his UN application, um, he says supposedly it started quite a bit before that. And if you're not aware of his UN refugee application, he put together a PDF file, and it's 100 megabytes. I think it's like 1,000 pages of his documentation trying to claim UN refugee status. Now, I know most people probably just have ignored it. I've pretty much ignored it up until these videos got me questioning some things, so I downloaded it from his link he had and started looking through it, and there's quite a lot of red flags popping up in there. And if you heard in that clip there, it sure seems like the area he's from is just rife with intelligence and power, and, elite corporations, and he just happens to pop out of that area. Or perhaps could he be one of those very agents he's speaking of? He has a buddy that has, access to top level clearance nuclear subs, and just has them on his thumb drive and shares with Brendon. And as we go on, you'll see he has many other high level connections. And I just wonder how has he made these connections? And keep in mind as we go over the UN documentation here, keep in mind the creating the backstory aspect of it, because a lot of things in there just really seem like they're creating a backstory. So let's move over to the UN documentation and let's go over some things. So here's the UN application. And you see, it's Brendon Lee O'Connell. And I have stuff highlighted and little comments on the highlighted parts to kind of my thoughts or questions about it. So you see the application, this general info. He went on the run in October 24th, 2016, which once we get to his arrest record, you'll see these dates are kind of questionable, as to when this stuff occurred. More specifically, he just happened to go on the run and really start speaking out on the internet in 2016, which is, in my opinion, kind of right when the online truth movement really revved up, and the alternative media people were really revving up, to start putting out truth information. So it's kind of a coincidence that he started his thingy right in 2016. Does that mean IIA? I don't know. Well, here's the first highlighted. Have you ever applied for refugee protection, kind of prior? He has yes. Which country? Iran. That's just oddball to me. You want refugee status, and some of the first places you think are Iran, and as we go down further, Qatar. Of all places, Iran and Qatar. Those, we'll say, hostile countries, but not really. Traveling to them, you got to kind of maybe have connections to get there. So, what kind of connections does he have to be going to these places? And you'll see, how warmly he was greeted at these places. Like he's just, part of the clique. So we'll go in here. Here's his occupation. He has a BA in nursing, Edith Cowan University, Western Australia. And apparently he was in the mining industry, IT and video editing. Now, I've never heard about him being in the mining industry doing IT and video editing. I don't believe he's ever spoke on any of that. So I'm kind of curious more about this mining industry. Was he working with a big international corporation, mining corporation there in Australia? Is he more than he leads on to believe with that? Did he have inside information into big corporate mining? I don't know. I would like to know more about that. Have you ever held a government position? No. And have you been a member of an organization? He put down yes, but not really. It says Friends of Palestine, FOP. He was to video edit and assist public awareness campaigns. It was cut short by his arrest in 2009, and it was only a verbal agreement, so apparently he never joined. And then you get down here to why did you leave your home country? Explain in detail. So, like I mentioned above, October 24th, 2016, he fled Australia. And that's because there's outstanding warrants for his arrest. And he went right to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And here he states again, it's all started, 2009, even 2005 with that little nuclear sub incident. Which we go down further, you'll find that's not quite true. Supposedly it goes back further. And then here he states where it started, a simple altercation at Friends of Palestine rally turned into an international incident. And it ended up with a high-profile trial beginning in January 2011. Why is the trial so high-profile when he's just an ordinary Brendon RN nurse working in the healthcare industry? For a simple altercation, it's super high-profile. Did they want it to be high-profile? Were they trying to get eyes on it? I don't know. Is it creating the backstory? And here he claims, I became a targeted individual. Now that kind of stands out for me because targeted individual, that term is a buzzword. And I think it's probably an intelligence buzzword. And it gets people buzzing in their head that the person, is just being targeted from all the intelligence agencies constantly, and it's being done because they're trying to expose them. And so when someone uses that word, I just kind of question it or brush it off because they're either using it as a buzzword to get attract attention or whatever. But that stood out because he used that specific term. I brought out massive corruption allegations in Western Australia, including drugs, weapons trading, and money laundering. Not to mention speaking out about the Israeli infiltration in tech and the links with China and all the other stuff he is supposedly, exposing. How does just a regular RN in the healthcare industry have all this intel and trying to fight to expose all this stuff? It seems like, ordinary Brendon wouldn't really be into all this stuff, if he's just, RN at at a hospital. So I find this kind of a red flag, is he just has all this info on, government and agencies, and he's, exposing it all. So I kind of question that. This paragraph here, he's just saying he's had numerous psych evals and always passed with flying colors. Here I was granted asylum verbally in Iran in October 2016 by Mr. Havid of the Iranian Foreign Ministry. I was to work with government analysts at an NGO, the Persian Gulf Studies Center. So he's just warmly welcomed into Iran and offered a government analysis job. Just out of nowhere. So, how is just, ordinary Brendon warmly welcomed, and here's a government job, and we'll set you up, no need to worry? That seems odd to me. It kind of seems like he might have connections beforehand. And that would completely allow this backstory to be created. Here he mentions Cynthia McKinney, but we'll discuss that later. And he mentions Kevin Barrett here, which I do believe I talk about that a little further down with all his high-level connections that he's spoken to. And here, I have been approached by levels of the Australian policing and intelligence community to, quote, handle things quietly. I find that odd, that policing and intelligence are approaching him and telling him, hey, we know what's going on, we know the Israeli penetration and, all the other things you're trying to expose, but you got to handle it quietly, Brendon. It just seems odd to me there that, they're telling an ordinary person, we handle these things privately. It just makes it seem like even more that, he's a part of the intel community. Moving on. It says, what do you believe will happen to you or members of your household if you return to your home country? And he goes through here about warrants for his arrest, and he'd be cut off from the outside world, maybe psychiatrically admitted, forcibly medicated, possibly marginalized from society. But then here he says, and I have, through simple open source information, made known major facts about Israeli power and ability to intimidate governments. So here he's claiming that he just has simple open source information that's available to anybody. And, that's what he's trying to expose and get out to people. Well, if it's just simple open source information, well, how did that create a high profile trial and then, turn into the disaster that it did for him over, the next 4 years or so? I don't see how simple open source information turned into all this. And then here's another high level person that he mentions, says, we all respect your work. So a lot of these people that he references is in reference to how much they respect his work and how much he's done, and all the great things he's done. And this is ordinary Brendon RN, but the work he's done is respected by everybody. It just further hints that he's a part of the community. And here he filled out the form himself. This is other comments. And here he says, with enough pressure from a major body such as the UN, the Australian government can be forced to commence a full, open, and transparent public inquiry into the debacle of their own making. Now, the reason I bring this up highlighted is he's a smart guy. I can tell he's a smart guy, and he comes off as a smart guy, but he still believes in the beast system. And the beast system is the top level governments around the world that are all working in unison with each other in lockstep. That's the beast system. They have a global governmental ruling system put into place with all these different governments and all these institutions, especially UN, major part of it. But he thinks that the UN, who's part of the beast system, is going to pressure the Australian government to publicly inquire into this debacle and expose it all. Now, either that's a lie, or he is very, very naive. And I don't think Brendon's that naive. So this is just part of creating a backstory, because he should know the UN ain't going to make the Australian government do anything. And even if they did apply pressure, they're not going to publicly inquire into this and make it all known and admit what happened. It's not going to happen. The beast system is corrupt and broken. It cannot be fixed. We cannot fix this current beast system. I don't know how we're going to come out the other side of this, but we can't repair the current system we have. It either needs stripped and a new one, or like I said, I'm not even sure. But the current beast system can't be fixed. It's too infiltrated and too controlled. It's not because it's not just the governments; it's all the institutions. The institutions that were supposed to serve the people are taken over, controlled, and they serve the ruling elite now. So it's completely broken, and there's not a chance to fix it. The cancer, has set in too deep, to cut out. And then down here, if the Australian government will not play ball, which they're not, he would like the relative safety of a UN refugee designation as he flies to Qatar. So first he's trying to refuge in Iran, of all places. Now he wants to go to Qatar too. It just doesn't make sense, the choices. I mean, he does have reasons for these countries, but that just screams intel agent, to even be getting into these places and being offered government analyst jobs and all the other stuff. That just screams agent to me. So you can see all the appendixes here. Here's overview, introduction, guide to document. And this is where he says, a simple altercation at the FOP rally May 2nd, 2009 turned into an international incident that continues to unfold 10 years later, which included 3 years in jail because he offended the Perth Jewish community. So that's just another, simple altercation, but it's an international incident, and, he's in jail, and everything else that supposedly came of it. then I didn't highlight this, but he says here the Iranian government saw fit to grant him asylum based on the United Nations Convention, although it was never formally processed and completed. So apparently he never did get the status from Iran. So that's probably why he's trying for Malaysia here now. This application is for Malaysia. He just goes on to talk about the people in Iran and other stuff that went on there. And moving on. And here's where a little bit of his history kind of contradicts, because he claims numerous times the process started in 2009, and then he mentioned 2005 too. Well, here he says, I have been exposing the Israeli state's rampant institutionalized racial and religious supremacism for 20 years. Now, I do believe this document here was composed in 2019. So if he's been doing this for 20 years, that means he started in 1999, the late 90s. He started exposing, all this stuff, maybe 2000. So that's 5+ years before the 2005 incident, and almost 10 years before the 2009 incident that started the process. And then here he says, I have been exposing Israeli cyber technology domination for a similar time. So for 20 years also. So that kind of hints that, he's been involved in stuff prior to 05, 09 that started, his process. He's been involved, so that there screams agent, that he's in the community. And then here he talks about how the Israeli state itself came out against him. And after he was arrested and leading up to his trial, the Israeli state put on a Friends of Israel rally a week before his trial. And they've never had a Freedom or Friends of Israel rally previously. And they had a keynote speaker there, Stanley Elliott Keyser. And he says that Stanley specifically mentioned him by name as the reason for the Friends of Israel rally. So they're out there holding a rally and publicly saying, we're doing this because Brendan O'Connell. All for a simple altercation and some open source information. I find that hard to believe, just because all the other flags that are up. But when it comes to Israel and offending their communities and stuff, I don't find it hard to believe. They would go to extremes and act ridiculous about it. But in this case, I kind of find it a little hard to believe that it was just simple altercation and open source information. And if you've seen any of his videos and stuff of what he supposedly did offending them, he really didn't commit any crimes. And they don't need you to, if they want to arrest you. So this backstory, is possible. But it's also possible that, it's not real, and it's just that. It's a backstory, a created backstory. But you have to come to your own conclusion on it, and that's what I'm in the process of doing. So now next, I received enormous support privately from various officials, including police, lawyers, military, prison officers, politicians. So he sure has a lot of private support from people in prominent fields and prominent positions. And here, I was welcomed at the airport by Royal Malaysian Police in December 2017 with the words, "You are always welcome in Malaysia, Mr. O'Connell. Relax." So it seems like he's kind of a VIP, Royal Malaysian Police. You're always welcome here. And just another kind of hint that he might be a member of the community. And here he mentions Cynthia McKinney again. You have a body of work to be proud of. He always likes to put that out there, which if you look into Cynthia McKinney, she's kind of held in high regard in the truth community because she stood up when she was in Congress, about the Israeli forms you got to pledge and whatnot. But you look into her a little further, and she's very questionable. And then I think she left the country. I don't even think she's in the country anymore. So she's a very questionable person. And then next paragraph, he mentions talking to Dr. Kevin Barrett, who was formerly University of Wisconsin, and Dr. Barrett wanted him to assist with conferences in Malaysia. So there's just another job opportunity in his lap here. You want to assist with conferences in Malaysia? Your connections get it for you. So let's keep scrolling down here. In this paragraph, he talks about Qatar again. And he says, if he gets a refugee designation, his plan is to head to Qatar because asylum applications must be more readily accepted. And the offices of Al Jazeera are located there. If you're trying to expose some truth and stuff, you'd want to be able to get on camera and get your message out. But if you want to run IIA, you also want to be on camera and media and, get whatever operation messages out that they see fit. So the fact that he wants to go to Qatar because Al Jazeera is there raises questions for me. And here, he headed to New Zealand, free air ticket. Let me see. He received no official assistance from Malaysian government, accepting their approval of my return to Malaysia from New Zealand with a free air ticket. Well, apparently Malaysia gave him the free air ticket. But yeah, he was in New Zealand at some point too. So he's gone to Malaysia, then Iran, then Malaysia. Well, you'll see, it's further down here. Then here I must thank an endless number of ordinary people, I'm sure they're ordinary, from all over the world who have supported me. I guess there could be, once he got on the internet and set up his media presence, I'm sure there were ordinary people giving him donations and stuff. But all the other behind the scenes people that we never meet, and probably a lot we've never heard of, I'm sure they're ordinary. Without their validation and financial support, I could not have continued. A special thank you to Magical Unicorn, whose considerable financial support enabled me to get offline and complete this document. This supposed magical unicorn was also my landlord for 2 years. And it looks like the name is Yannick, whatever. So I've heard him mention Magical Unicorn numerous times, and I do believe he's had him on videos discussing certain things with this Magical Unicorn. And to me, after seeing this, he mentioned that the Magical Unicorns, giving him financial support in some of his videos. But after seeing this here in the document, It almost seems like the magical unicorn could possibly be a handler. I don't know. Maybe. Um, here again, he said considerable financial support, and he was his landlord for 2 years. So it must have been in Malaysia. And, I'm sure that room and board were free. He probably wasn't charged for it. So it was just a warm welcome and freebies for Brendon. Really makes you think he has some ties he's not leading on to. So let's keep going down the document. Here's his passport. Well, I don't have anything here to cover because it's mostly Malaysia, Indonesia, his Iran stamps, New Zealand stamp. Nothing too out of the ordinary that I've seen. With a lot of blank pages there. His driver's license. Comes down to his college transcripts. Kind of look genuine. So I believe he could have a bachelor's degree in RN. Although if genuine deep intel agent, I'm sure that they could fake that. And then we get down to his police record. And I do believe I will pause it there. And we'll be right back to discuss that. All right. So let's continue on here with the arrest record in the UN document. So here's the arrest record. And we'll scroll down. It's only one page here. Oop. I'm gonna jump there. All right. So let's go to the first record on here, which I point out because it's kind of funny. He was arrested in August 27th, 2003, for prohibited plant cultivate with intent. The court result, imprisonment for 2 years, sentence suspended for 2 years. So, sounds like he was charged with that, convicted, and he got out the prison sentence. Now, I just thought it was funny because he's probably growing pot, probably selling it. But you think about things like that, and criminal charges, are one way that the ruling powers can get you under their thumb. So did this possibly happen with Brendon? It may be a major operation where he was looking at some major time and decided to help, become an asset? It's possible. So let's move on from there. So he has no other charges for 7 years until February, April, and June of 2010. And the February one is breach of bail undertaking. It says he was fined $500. And then in April, obstructing public officers, fined $500. And then in June, disorderly behavior in public, and conditional release order for 12 months with $1,500 undertaking. Now, I'm not sure what this group of 3 charges is, and I'm not sure what the conditional release order for 12 months is. He was supposedly arrested in 2009. So I understand that with the court systems, things take time. So you could possibly be arrested in 2009 and you don't get convicted or have your charges I guess, considered validated until a later date, once you go through a court appearance and stuff. So are these three here in 2010, are those related to his 2009 arrest? Or is this group here in 2011 related to his 2009 arrest? It's likely these 2011 charges are related to the 2009 incident, but then what's the 2010? Unless the 2009 incident took clear to 2011 and he acquired these in between. But so let's look over these 2011 ones. They were all January 31st, the same day. Conduct likely to racially harass. Imprisonment for 12 months. Total imprisonment for 3 years. Next charge, conduct intended to incite racial animosity or racial hatred. Imprisonment for 2 years cumulative. So that's, adding 2 years. So that must be the first one, 12 months. The second one, 2 years. Add them together, 3 years. And then the third charge, conduct intended to incite racial animosity or racial hatred. That's the same charge as last one, but there's 4 charges of it there. And they gave him imprisonment for 2 years, but concurrently. So all those would have ran concurrently with these previous 3. So it'd be 3 years. And then the next batch of charges is 2016. So, first one, March. Use carriage service to menace, harass, offend. Court result, convicted. Released on entering recognizance self, $1,000 to be of good behavior for 2 months. And then in October, prohibition of publication or communication of private conversations or activities. Pending charge, no appearance warrant issued. And then disorderly behavior in public, it's pending, no appearance. And then November, threaten to kill, it's pending, no appearance warrant issued. So these new charges are about 5 years after this last batch of charges. And I put a little note in here. It's curious that right when he set out abroad, running from the law or whatever, and began his major online truth movement, it was right here at the end of 2016. Right when Trump won the election and the online truth community was really taking off. Well, that's kind of when Brendon went on the run and became an online, easily recognized name in the truth movement. Is that coincidence? It could be. I find it odd that, he just went out and, became on the scene right when the truth movement online really started taking off. And I believe that's when the truth movement really started to get infiltrated by the IIA operations. They seen everything that went on with Trump and the lead up to Trump getting elected, which was a bunch of online operations. And seeing how successful all that was, then they really started penetrating the truth movement after that, 2017 onward. And they have it probably pretty locked down today, where they can steer narratives in the mainstream and the alternative. So the weird thing about these charges is just the dates and stuff. But like I said, with court systems, you can be arrested and, not convicted for years, if your trial gets put out and stuff. So that's likely the discrepancy on charges and stuff here. So I do believe that's all I want to cover here with the arrest record. That's, some causes for concern there. And then you see that was the only page. And this was as of 2018. He got this arrest record. And I would have liked to have known when his trial ended. If he was arrested in 2009, when did his trial finish up? Was it there, January 2011? It concluded? Because, that's when these charges got logged. If so, then he would have had another year in jail. So he probably would have got out to 2012, I would imagine. Excuse me. And then he must have went 4 years after getting out of jail. Staying clean, not getting any other offenses and stuff. And then, 4 years later, these charges, pop out or wherever. And he said, to hell with them. I'm going on the run, I guess. So if anybody wants to dig into that more and get more exact dates, go for it. So we'll get down. This is just, he has it laid out real nice. You can click on all these things and it goes right to it. Links and stuff. It's a decent put together document. Here he talks about the court date. It says, on or around early October 2016, after a court date. On that court date, they delayed, again, sentencing for a threat to kill charge. So October 2016, they delayed the threat to kill charge sentencing. So let's go back up here and look. October 2016, they delayed it, so they probably delayed it to another month. And he wasn't there, and they probably, it's still pending, so he's not convicted of anything. So I guess that would make sense and line up, if they extended it. And here's him still claiming 2005 to present day he's been activist, which you've seen previously. It's been longer than that. And then here, I left Perth October 24th, 2016, after signing into a police station as part of my bail conditions. So October 24th, 2016, he's on bail. So he has to, sign in if he wants to leave anywhere. So October 24th, 2016, he notified them he's leaving. That's 4 days before these two charges, and a month before this charge. So if he's leaving prior to these, what did these originate from? Or did he get these charges prior to that? And they just got logged and recorded as this? So there's some date discrepancies. And October 24th being before these, what was he on bail for? Would it be this March one? Yeah, released on, okay. So that would be where he was on bail from the March carriage service to menace, harass, offend. Apparently, they didn't have a problem with him leaving the country. He signed in the police station and I guess notified him and left. Apparently, in a lot of his things, he said, he wasn't a flight risk or anything, but seems like he kind of is, and he kind of has the ability to leave, and he did. So that kind of hints at an asset to me, but that's just me. You just take all this, do further research, come to your own conclusions. So here I have highlighted his trips. He went from Perth to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. That would have been the same October 24th. And a week later, 2 weeks later, he left Malaysia and went to Tehran, first time. Hopped right on over to Iran, just ordinary Brendon, the RN. Headed to Malaysia, then Iran. Was there for a short period of time, and then back to Kuala Lumpur, November 18th. And then, a week later, back to Iran. Those flights, they're not cheap. Brendon's has some money here for all these plane tickets. Or is that his behind-the-scenes help funding all this? Who is that behind-the-scenes help? Magical unicorn, possible handler? Don't know. I know it costs money to do this stuff. Money ordinary Joes don't have. Most ordinary Joes don't have. Then he took a bus and went to another city in Iran. And then back to Tehran. Staying with a lawyer. Is that a freebie? Or has he got money to be having this lawyer? Or is that just another Intel connection lawyer? He's staying with them. A lot of hospitality in these countries for ordinary Brendon. This is just all about what he was doing in Iran. And then here's a little snippet. I contacted Dr. Alan Sabrowski, former colonel, U.S. Marine Corps retired, director of studies, U.S. Army War College for 5 years. Nope, he just picks up the phone, gives old Dr. Zabrowski a ring, because ordinary Brendon, they just, all these high-level, agency people, they just answer their phone for ordinary Joes. Because they're so eager to hear simple open source information, huh? And then, let's see, November, December, so 2 months. 2 months in Iran. He's back to Kuala Lumpur. Oh, worried about money. Yep, good thing he got support. And all through this stuff, he's mentioning high-level people's names and how they all just respect and love him. Yep, here's a contact in New Zealand suggested I try for political asylum there. Yeah, just contact in New Zealand. So January 2017. So in October, he's off to New Zealand now. Made arrangements to meet the New Zealand immigration lawyer. And so hop on a plane, fly to New Zealand. He said he was refused entry after about 12 hours. Supposedly spent 3 months in a high security prison. apparently, while he was in there, well, they just held a hunger strike because the prison was lacking in facilities. So just pops into New Zealand, gets in there, ends up in prison, puts on a hunger strike. Just ordinary Brendon, the RN. This is an excellent creating a backstory. Like all this stuff, it makes for a real good backstory. And then here, December 2017, so about a month later, he headed back to Malaysia, which the 19th of December, that don't make any sense. If he was went there in November, spent 3 months. So he arrived there October 13th, 3 months. November, December, January. January 13th, 2018 would be 3 months. But apparently, October 13th to December 19th, that's 2 months. He's back in New Zealand. So that don't line up. And then here's a September 14th, 2017. We are at the stage where we are working on the drafting of the special leave application to the High Court of Australia. I'm not sure why that's highlighted. He might have highlighted that because I don't believe I did, because I'm not sure what that means. Going down, I do believe that's all I have highlighted here as far as this UN document goes. So if you want to go into any further depth in this UN document, you can just follow the link to the video that we're doing clips on, and Brendon has the link to the file download site. You can download it yourself, take a look at it, do your own research into them if you want to. I find a lot of questions are involved in it. So let's go right into the next video snippet here, because we pretty much covered all of his past, kind of all out of the ordinary, and we're going to go into a lot of the red flags that he puts up that kind of made me question him to begin with, and to dig a little further here, into his history. So this video clip here, just about a minute. It's that same interview with the MC Scout. He's talking about how effective the IIA is, which is the interactive internet activities. It's a psychological operation form that the intelligence has created. If you guys weren't aware of what IIA is already. So let's play it.
Well, we can't do it anymore. The data analytics enable them to turn on a dime. When you understand social networking science and data analytics and the feedback mechanism of the internet, they can put a stimulus out there, a story, an issue, a happening, and watch the feedback. So they can take one direction, find resistance, get the data analytics back in real time, and say, stop that one, let's go this way. Or let's put a stimulus over here. Let's put a stimulus in the Ukraine. Or let's put a stimulus in Nigeria. Or let's put a stimulus over here. Or let's have a news story about this. And they can change the story, change the lead, as they say in the brilliant Wag the Dog. They can redirect energies. They can make it very difficult. They can do feints to the flanks. They can pretend to be invading, in Cherbourg, when they're coming through in Normandy. They can constantly make it very difficult to predict what's going on. That's why I said in my video 39 on YouTube, and my YouTube is still up because I read the terms of service. By the way, it's been deleted about 20 times. Don't make tranny jokes, one of the big ones. So I stopped making stuff like that.
The jokes there write themselves.
Yeah.
But
there were other reasons. I managed now to edit out anything I believe is incitement or can be construed as incitement. I think I've got it worked out finally. Plus, I got advice of an LA lawyer who actually worked on the O.J. Simpson case, believe it or not. I could tell you about that. But anyway, so predicting what's going on is very difficult once you understand social networking science and data analytics.
Okay, so you heard him talk about IIA there and what they're capable of. They're pretty much capable of steering narratives in real time. They're watching the truth community. They're monitoring the internet activity that's taking place, and they're analyzing it in real time. And if it starts going, one direction they're not too happy about, they can immediately interject something and push it into a different direction. And the analytics they have, likely AI that's monitoring this, they can see in real time what that injection, that they put in there, if it's working, to the degree that they want, or if it's not working, it's having unintended consequences, and they can adjust it and change it, and all this in real time. And that's currently, and we're probably not sure how long they've been able to do this. I recently watched a video of an old interview of Frances Stonor Saunders. She knows quite a bit, and she was speaking on how the CIA has kind of entered, the media space, and she put out that 1952, I believe, and if it wasn't 52, it was definitely by 1960, the CIA already had control of the minds of men. So by 1960, the CIA already had the knowledge, capability, and research to steer people's minds. And that was back then. So think of what they're capable of doing now. Not just now, as in like the beginning of the internet, but even especially after, the internet's been up and existing for as long as it has now. Just think of where the intelligence agencies are at. They're probably pretty advanced. Because you know what they have with the mainstream media. Complete narrative steering, 100% control, almost, I'll say 99%. Every now and again, you'll get a renegade, a reporter out there that might do something, but in general, it's largely controlled. So, let's go to the red flags. And here are the things that first kind of got me questioning Brendon. And it was mostly his online behavior. But number one is this globetrotting. When I seen him hopping all around like this to here and there and meeting with all these high level people, and he's doing this and that, and saying how money's tight, but he's offering to pay other people, to go do activism, where he doesn't have money in himself. That raised a lot of red flags with me. Like, how's ordinary Brendon doing all this stuff? Especially the country hopping. And then the second thing was him pushing for political lobbying, of your government representatives, the high up military brass, other people, their upper levels of institutions. That's his main thing. He wants you to go lobby them, you know, try to educate them on, this truth movement and get them on your side. So then they go back into the government institutions, military, and try to make change, try to make the change you want. Yet, being as intelligent as he is, and as I mentioned, in the previous video, that he's not aware that these governments, institutions, and military are completely infiltrated and corrupted. Like, he should know that, the cancer has set too deeply and there's no cutting it out. So, this political lobbying is likely a complete waste of time. And he should know that. And he should not be focusing on having people do that, for it's a waste of time. So that's likely the reason he's doing it. So for you to go out and waste your time and energy doing something that's not going to make any change. It's as simple as that. We have a beast system, and the beast system can't be turned around or fixed. I'm not sure how to go forward other than completely scrapping it. I'd like to go back to the basis constitution, but you can't backtrack to that. Like, you have to wipe out the current system and then start over with the constitution again. Or, it would be a different, way of life. Could we create something different? I don't know what the future holds, but this current beast system, it's not. It's just, it needs to go. It can't be fixed. And then another red flag of Brendon, this will be about the fourth or so, is his discrediting of other truthers. He vehemently discredits other truthers. And a lot of these truthers, they give good information. I watch a lot of the people that he calls out and calls shills and gatekeepers and IIA operatives and whatnot. I watch most of them. I watch most of their content because they do have really good information. Are they out there telling you to take action and do this, because, this is going to fix it? No. They're just giving information. And there's nothing wrong with just giving information. You don't have to have a solution. Like, I don't have a solution, to the beast system and what's going on. But I'm going to try to put information out there. So hopefully as many people as possible can get this information and make changes in themselves. And once you make change within yourself, everyone as a whole can come together. But you got to change you first. And when it comes to him calling out the other truthers, he likes to target Whitney Webb, James Corbett, the last American vagabond he's been targeting lately, Adam Green, No More News. He loves to discredit him. And I'll admit, in future videos we'll go over this, a lot of these internet media, alt media, journalists, they do have groups where they're kind of like together. Like Whitney Webb works with TLAV, kind of, and in days gone by, you had like Dabu7 and Brian Richmond with After Hours and other people, and it seemed like they kind of had their own cliques. And you watch enough of people's content, you make a lot of connections on, how different online characters are connected. And I've heard a lot of connections, and that makes me question most truthers online. Um, Even The Last American Vagabond, which in my opinion is the top-notch alternative media source of information. He's stellar. He doesn't, he tells you question everything, come to your own conclusion. And that's what it should be. And his information's backed up by data. Whether that data is, good or not is another story, considering where a lot of things come from. But he bases, his research and what he shows you on real data. So Ryan Christian with The Last American Vagabond is top notch, in my opinion. Could he very well be IIA? Maybe. With the group that he works with and connections with all the other people, he's very likely. And even if, they wouldn't be, knowingly involved in IIA, what they're doing might serve IIA operations. Just him doing, his thing might serve IIA, um, whatever their intent is. So, and those aren't the only truthers Brendon's called out. He's called out a lot of people. A lot of people. Burn a lot of bridges. Many people wanted him to come on, and he just wouldn't. He really made a scene there when he was on the Truth Movement. And that's one of the things that, kind of lends Brendon credibility. He came on the scene and he's calling out all these other truthers, calling them gatekeepers and shills and, trying to expose some connections they have and this and that. And people see that and they're like, oh, wow, here's this guy that's even more legit. He's calling out, other people who, I previously thought were legit. But he's calling them out, questioning them. He has a lot of good information to go along with it. Perhaps, he's the genuine one, and, maybe I was wrong about these people. And, that's effective, That's effective backstory and would be effective IIA operations, to do this. And so truthers have been doing this for years, kind of infighting, calling each other out. And it's really good for clicks, and it's, really good to bring people in, depending on, whose side they're on. If you're calling out someone they don't like, you're likely to get a follower from that. And don't think the intelligence agencies don't see this and manipulate it, or don't think they're the ones creating, this infighting and hostility. They're involved. They're going to control it. Remember, they always control both sides, at least to some extent. So the last red flag was all Brendon's behind the scenes help, with all the money coming in mysteriously, probably a lot that he's never mentioned. And what he does mention is pretty sus. The magical unicorn was sus. One time he said he got 5 Bitcoin, which was thousands of dollars, before it skyrocketed. And just all the behind the scenes help that he's had, because like I said, what he's done in the past 10, 12 years, that costs money. And supposedly he left Australia with none. So somebody's had a lot of help. Where has that help come from? So back to the original question. Is Brendon Lee O'Connell legit? An organic truther that just, went from RN healthcare field to um, international fugitive, um, one of the better, more credible figures in the truth community? Or is he an III or IIA agent or intel operative? You decide. You take this information, you decide yourself. I know what side I'm leaning on, but like with most things online, I can't be 100% sure either way. So, all right, let's watch this last clip where Brendon calls out Alex Jones and InfoWars and Joe Rogan for being the gatekeeping shills they are, and how they're very, I'd say it's beyond a doubt that they're part of intelligence operations, whether it's IIA or a different one. They're definitely controlled and part of it. And Alex Jones is definitely doing it knowingly. And I'm almost positive Rogan is doing it knowingly too. They both know what they're doing. They are so high value multimillionaires, raking it in, that they know exactly what they're doing for these intel agencies. And if you don't see that by now, you'll probably are just going to choke on the gold pill and die. Because if you haven't risen above Alex Jones, InfoWars, and Joe Rogan by now, you probably aren't. You probably don't have the IQ to do it. And I don't mean to be ignorant, but it's sadly the truth. Our population's becoming very dumb, very idiotic, lower thinking, lower intelligence thinking, lower IQ. And this is factual. You look at the declining IQ. Adults' IQs are declining and children's are declining. We are going to be an idiocracy in the future if it continues. And it's intentional. The fluoride that they poison us with all of our lives, up until recently, where some people started getting it out of the water systems and stuff, it makes you dumb and complacent. It's they're dumbing us down on purpose. And once you get below a certain IQ level, you're not even capable of abstract thought, which is required for spiritualness, and discerning, a higher source or a God. So once you're that dumb, you can't really abstractly think about a God. So it's a sad state it's in, but you got to start higher thinking. You got to try to live by the gold pill. The details I lay out, what it means to be gold pilled. Because higher thought and higher spirituality is the only thing that's going to help us get out of this mess. And probably more so higher spirituality and connecting with the source. So let's jump over here to that clip and we'll finish it up.
We heard about George Soros all day, every day, until I said, does anyone remember Henry Kissinger? Well, who was Henry Kissinger's right-hand man, Scout? Who was his right-hand man in the State Department in the late 70s and the mid-70s? Well, it was none other than Dr. Steve Pieczenik, the man who originally funded all the nutraceutical stuff via Goldman Sachs for Alex Jones and co. He funded all that with his investment company. That's a direct link to Henry Kissinger. Joe Rogan, he's an alt media star. The guy's on $180 million a year contracts. He's not the alt media. Tucker Carlson prouts himself as the alt media. Man, those mainstream media. Tucker Carlson is the damn mainstream media. Alex Jones turns over $50 to $75 million per month. He is not a dissident activist. The guy is a hold and controlled denology, privatized military intelligence operation, and here they are part of this giant network that is controlling the narrative, distracting, keeping people away from truthful narratives that we're speaking now. The big picture. So tactically, you ask, well, what?
Okay, so there you hear his claims about Alex Jones. As far as Rogan goes, we're going to cover Rogan here probably next video, because he's so controlled. Any guest he has on there is intentional. The guests that he gets are specifically chosen, and for whatever reason, whatever narrative they want to push, whatever story they want to create, they're intentional. And recently, Rogan has had two prominent truth doctors on, within a week of each other. One was episode, I think, 1147. It was either Malone or McCullough, and then episode 1157 was the other. So we're going to talk about Rogan, those two guest interviews, and connections they have to each other and to other people, and how this was very likely done for a specific reason. So that will be the next video. That's the end of this video, and looks like we're just a little bit over an hour of covering Brendon. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some more information out of it, and hopefully it puts you on a path to higher thinking about this whole truth movement, and higher thinking about this alternative media space that exists online. It's not what it seems. It's not. So everyone take care. Have a good day. This is Gold Pilled with the Gold Pilled stream. Okay, so I wanted to add this in there because I feel it's important enough to add. I was just going to put it down in the description box, type it out, but I feel this should be added on to the video here. It's one of the red flags for Brendon, and I completely missed it. And it's actually like one of the more prevalent red flags for him. And that's him still being on YouTube. Now, if you followed Brendon for any amount of time, and I'm sure most people out there probably haven't followed alt media journalists quite as much as I have, but over the past 5-6 years of keeping an eye out for Brendon's work, he's had numerous YouTube channels. I mean, numerous. Probably getting close to 10 or more. And they'll delete them, or the channel will just disappear. Videos will be gone, and it's probably likely mostly YouTube getting rid of some of them, but it could also be on the creator's end too. He could remove, delete channels and stuff. So the fact that he's still on YouTube is a big, raises a big question, because he puts out some pretty good information on YouTube, and they permit it. And the fact that he's had all these channels, and they continue to permit him on there, and I'm sure the intelligence agencies, going on the basis that he's just ordinary Brendon RN, I'm sure the intelligence agencies are aware of him, and what he's trying to do. So they would be aware of what he's doing on YouTube, and be in contact with YouTube, to remove whatever. So the fact that he's still on there is a big red flag, and he actually has an excuse for why he's currently on YouTube, because he wasn't on YouTube for the longest time. I follow him on BitChute. He's on BitChute, but he got this most recent YouTube channel back, And he claims that he read the terms of service and spoke with some fancy lawyer about what to do on YouTube to not get deleted. And between reading the terms of service and speaking with this lawyer, he now knows what to magically do and not get deleted off YouTube. So that's his excuse for how his current channel is continuing. Because you would think, I have the link in the description for his interview with that scout. You think YouTube would probably want to delete that. There's some good information in there, and like I said, all his previous channels, I remember numerous ones because I'd follow them and then they just disappear, and then he'd get some more and then it'd disappear and maybe go 6 months and then, but he's, back on YouTube. So yeah, how haven't they put an end to him? And he even mentioned communicating with someone at YouTube, like another source at YouTube, and apparently that helped him, get his channel. So that's just another big red flag, and I thought it was important to add on to the end of this video here. So if you see anyone else like in this similar situation with losing channels, and then they're back up again, then losing channels, and they're back up again, and each time this happens, they make a big stink about it and get all their followers, riled up, censorship, screw YouTube, but their channel's back up again. There's quite a few of them, quite a few alt media channels that have had that happen, and they're still on YouTube. So, we question them, remember, they control both sides always. So, what's happening on our side, per se, is likely controlled or at least steered in certain directions. And I was put this down in the description, but this is not an attack on Brendon. I'm not trying to discredit his work. I'm not trying to discredit his character. I'm just doing a critical analysis of, who he is and what's his backstory. Because, like I said, only higher thinking and higher spirituality is going to get us out of this. And the higher thinking comes into all the information we intake. So we need to be very critical of the information we're taking in, where it's coming from, and what possible reason is there for us receiving this information. So I hope everyone out there realizes, I'm not trying to start a media beef with Brendon or anything. This is just a critical analysis, and I would even actually recommend that you review all of Brendon's work. Learn as much as you can from it. I've learned a lot from it, and I'm grateful that he did all the work he did, putting out information. I've learned a lot, and I suggest you do the same, because there might come a time where this information isn't accessible anymore. So get it while you can and learn as much as you can now, because I have a feeling in the future things are going to be changing, and not changing for the better. So I hope you enjoy this video here, and I hope you possibly start thinking deeper, about these online media faces. That's it for Gold Pilled with the Gold Pilled stream. Everybody take care. Bye.